Welcome to Plain English, the podcast that goes at the right speed for English language learners. Listen now and read the transcript online at plainenglish.com. Now, here's Jeff, your host for today's episode.
North and South Korea are moving toward a peace agreement, ending a war that's over 60 years old. Welcome to Plain English for May 3rd, 2018. I'm Jeff, and you are listening to the podcast that goes at the right speed for English language learners. Today's episode is about the recent negotiations between North and South Korea and their agreement to formally end the Korean War. Toward the end of the program, we'll talk about the English phrasal verb hash out. Today is episode 43, and you can find the full transcript of the program online at plainenglish.com/43. You might find it helpful to read the transcript as you listen, so that you don't have to press pause if you don't catch a word. The transcripts also have translations to Portuguese, Spanish, French, and Chinese. So if you haven't seen them, make sure to check them out. plainenglish.com/43 for the transcript of today's episode. The fighting ended in 1953, but the Korean War will officially come to an end this year, according to a peace deal reached between the leaders of South Korea and North Korea. The two countries have technically been at war for over 60 years, since no peace agreement was ever signed to end the conflict between the two countries that lasted from 1950 to 1953. Over 1 million people died in the conflict. The war was fought between North Korea, backed by China and the Soviet Union, and South Korea, backed by the United States. Ever since the end of the fighting, North and South Korea have lived with an uneasy coexistence on the same peninsula. Relations between the two sides have ebbed and flowed over the years. The North remains a military dictatorship, while the South has become a democracy and has made enormous economic strides. While South Korea has engaged with the world and formed alliances and trade agreements, North Korea has taken a more confrontational approach and has aggressively developed nuclear weapons and has threatened its neighbors and the United States. The agreement between the two sides is surprising because tensions on the Korean peninsula seemed to be high in the past year. But things have moved quickly in recent weeks. South Korean President Moon Jae-in met with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un at the heavily guarded border between their two countries last week. The two leaders met and hashed out an agreement to officially end the war with a peace treaty and work to reunite families that have been separated on opposite sides of the border. Their meeting lasted 100 minutes. The two leaders spoke about denuclearization. According to the South Korean president, Kim Jong-un agreed to close his main nuclear testing site in May, and that both South Korea and the United States would be invited to witness the site's closure. Kim Jong-un told President Moon that if the war is officially ended, he doesn't think that North Korea would need to keep up a nuclear weapons program. They agreed to work toward a nuclear-free Korean peninsula. The official statement from the meeting said, "The two leaders declare before our people of 80 million and the entire world there will be no more war on the Korean peninsula and a new age of peace has begun." There were other agreements made at the summit between the two leaders. The two sides agreed to further connect and modernize railways and roadways between the two countries. They would reduce the military presence along the border, changing the border's name from a demilitarized zone to a peace zone. Kim Jong-un agreed to change the time zone in North Korea to match that of the South. Previously, it had been 30 minutes different. U.S. President Donald Trump is scheduled to meet with Kim Jong-un in May or June. If that meeting happens, it would be the first time an American president would meet with a North Korean leader. American government officials, including the new Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, have said there is a real opportunity to reduce the threat of war from North Korea. This does seem to be good news on the surface, but we will have to wait and see if the promises produce real changes. North Korea has a long history of making agreements and then violating them. If you listen carefully to what they promised, you'll notice they only promised to close their largest testing site. They did not promise to stop nuclear weapons altogether. What's more, North Korea has tortured or imprisoned people for attempting to escape to South Korea. It seems unusual that the country would now embrace its southern neighbor and promise to increase ties after doing so much to keep its population separate. Still, this is the closest that North Korea has come to having normal diplomatic relations with other countries in a long time. And if real change were to occur, it would have to start somewhere. Today, I have to say a really special hello and thank you to Nath Baral. He is a math teacher in Kathmandu, Nepal. Nepal is a small country just north of India, and Kathmandu is the capital. Nath has said that he often has to explain math concepts to his students in English, and he's been using plain English to get better at explaining concepts to his classroom. I'm really proud and happy to have Nath in the audience. I can tell you, when I started this project, I had no idea that anyone in Kathmandu would listen, so I was really excited when I saw his great review on Facebook. If you would like to send me a note or leave a review of your own on Facebook, you can find the show under the username Plain English Pod. You can find us on Twitter, too, with the same username, Plain English Pod. The word we're going to concentrate on today is hash out. Earlier, you heard that the leaders of North and South Korea hashed out an agreement to officially end the war between their two countries. To hash out means to discuss, talk about, negotiate, or work through something. The two sides hashed out an agreement. That means they got together, talked about the situation, and worked together to form the agreement. They hashed it out by negotiating, by discussing, talking, and working together to find a solution. This is a strange phrasal verb since hash is an uncommon verb to begin with, but hash out is most common when you're referring to two people with differences of opinion or disagreements coming together to find a solution. Have you ever had a coworker that you just don't get along with? Your boss might tell you that both of you need to sit down and hash out your differences, meaning talk and discuss until you find a way to resolve your differences. I'm in a tough situation right now that needs a solution. Here in the United States, when you own a single apartment or a condominium, all the owners in the building have to get together as volunteers and manage the common areas of the building. Well, in my building, two of the owners are furious with each other. I mean, they really have a big disagreement. And the rest of us have to help those two people hash out their problems. We need to help them talk through their problems and somehow find a way to live with one another. It's not going to be easy, but if these two people can hash out their issues, then I bet North and South Korea can hash out theirs. Thanks again to all of you for listening and for being part of Plain English. If you'd like to connect with the program on Facebook or Twitter, the show's username is Plain English Pod. JR, the producer, and I both like getting notes from people all around the world, like Kathmandu. It really provides us with the motivation we need to continue Plain English and hopefully expand the podcast in the future. Remember that the next episode will be on Monday. Our topic will be the 80th anniversary of Superman. Make sure you get that episode by clicking follow in Spotify or subscribe if you're listening in Apple Podcasts. See you then.